Hello everyone, welcome to Story Vault YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy the video. What's something you witnessed, scary or otherwise, that you still can't explain to this day? Part 2. Story 1. I was taking a walk in the woods by my old house in the summer of 2020 and thinking of my grandpa. All of a sudden I heard his favorite song playing. No one was around. Still gives me chills. Comment. There was a running joke in my friend group that one of my friends was secretly Canadian, much to his annoyance. One day, he decided to stop by a Japanese supermarket with some of them. As soon as he steps through the door, for some reason, Chris Benoit's, a WWE Canadian wrestler, entrance theme started to play over the loudspeaker. My friends, being wrestling heads, cracked up immediately while my Canadian hung his head in shame. No spooky chills feelings, just silliness. Story 2. I lived in one town, and my girlfriend at the time lived in another. I was 19 to 20 and living back at home with my parents, waiting to ship out to basic training on a delayed entry program, and my POS car was constantly breaking down, as was the case here. So, I was hanging out at my GF's house that evening, and she was going to drive me home. Well, technically, I drove, but it was her car. Anyway, we decided to take some back roads to be able to have some more time together. It was around 10 o'clock at night and just a little foggy, but I wasn't worried about that because I knew those roads very well. Then we get to an intersection where I have to stop first. I do so, and then just as I start going, I slam the brakes on. Something was screaming at me not to go that way. I sat there for a few seconds, and I started shaking, but I was getting ready to keep going when my GF asked me to turn around and go back the main way. I was young, cocky, and invincible, of course, so I'm surprised I didn't insist at that point on going ahead, but it was like everything in my body did not want to be on that road at that time. As soon as we started going back the way we came, I felt like a weight that I hadn't even noticed was lifted off of me. I was still shaken by what I had felt, and the fact that my GF obviously felt something off as well. We spend the 25 minutes or so from there to my house in complete silence. No talking, she talked constantly, no music. We both put music on anytime we went anywhere, even if it was so low we could barely hear it because we were talking. But this time, and I don't even know how it would have happened, because the radio was always on, the radio was turned off completely. We were both, I think, too afraid or embarrassed to say what was going through our heads, and just thinking about it to ourselves. Here's the kicker. As soon as we walked in my front door, my mom was sitting on the couch and immediately cried out, "Oh, thank God," and got up and actually hugged us both. She then said that about a half hour earlier she had all of a sudden gotten this sick feeling in her stomach and was absolutely certain that we were in some kind of serious danger. This was before cell phones were really prevalent, so she had no way of getting in contact with either of us once we left. She said she tried to call GF's house, but the line was busy. We always had to fight with her younger brother and younger sister to talk to each other on the phone. So she had just sat there and waited for the phone to ring to say that something had happened to us. To this day, when either my mom or I brings that up, we both get chills and both start to break down and can't continue the conversation until we change the subject. In fact, it's probably been 10 years since we've even tried. TLDR, was driving home with GF, got a really bad feeling, turned around and went another way. Got home only for my mom to say she pretty much had the exact same feeling at about the exact same time. Edit to add. I realized I didn't say that my GF ended up staying for about an hour to calm her nerves. I made her call me when she got home to know everything went fine. That was very important to me at the time, and kind of feels like I should add that part. Story 3. My little brother was a douchebag, and he'd frequently take my car without my permission or putting gas into it while denying up and down that he did so. The kicker is he was almost always smoking or drinking, so he could have really put me at risk. Dumbass would put the parking brake on when he parked despite the area I park being near flat, so I always knew when he took it. No one else did this. About 5 years ago, I woke up from a vivid dream of being in agony in my bed. I could feel my consciousness dying bit by bit, a pressure in my head building as it all slipped away. It dragged on for many hours, and when I awoke, I knew something was terribly wrong. I found out hours later that he was brain dead after having a heart attack caused by a cerebral hematoma. Somehow, I had dreamed his final, conscious moments on this earth. When his shell was allowed to die several days later, I went to my car to go out. I had taken it out the day before, yet when I got in the car, the parking brake was on. I saw a vision of him pointing at me and laughing in that obnoxious way the boy from The Simpsons does. Nelson, maybe? Ha ha. Before disappearing. There is no chance I put the parking brake on, and no one else in my family does this. It may not be scary, but it sure as shit isn't something I can explain. Story 4. I was driving through Casper, Wyoming 3 weeks ago. I needed to meet a friend on my way through for a minute, and we decided to meet near Menards in the south end of town. As I am driving up, I swear to everything that on the right side of the road I witness a full tree render from the ground up out of nowhere, just like in a video game, right in front of me. It's wintertime, so no leaves or anything like that, but I had to stop the truck and gather myself because it was so shocking. Strangest thing I have experienced in a long time. Story 5. As a kid, around 11 years old, I went on a family trip to El Salvador to visit family after the Civil War was over and it was safe to visit. One of the first stops we did was to visit my maternal grandmother's grave. My mother hadn't been to the site in over 10 years, so a group of 6 of us were scanning the rows of above-ground graves, looking for her resting place. Think of the cemetery you see in movies like Interview with a Vampire. While we are scanning for the grave, I see a woman walking alongside us wearing an interesting black and white polka dot dress. I look away for a couple of seconds and she is gone. I walk towards the area she was at and lo and behold, I recognize the name on the grave. It was my grandmother's resting place. I figured it's a crazy coincidence until I see a picture on the headstone and realize the lady was my dead grandmother. The polka dot dress was the one she was buried in. Story 6. I was in my 20s and my then-boyfriend and I were at his parents' house. Just the 2 of us and the family dog. He was opening mail in the dining room and I was rinsing a glass in the kitchen, within sight of him about 15 feet away. We were talking and suddenly came loud footsteps overhead. Stomp, 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 stomp. He froze and I looked at him like WTF. But the look on his face was not confusion or panic. Oh no. It was oh shit. Now I have to tell her the house is haunted. So then he let me in on the family secret. Some entity, it had a strong masculine energy to me, lived in their attic. BF's mom had tried nailing the crawl space door shut, placing typewriters in front of it, etc. Always got reopened. And the dog would refuse to go upstairs unless carried directly into one of the bedrooms. Story 7. Worked at a tanning salon when I was a teen. It was in the basement of an old 70s apartment building. Since the very first day I worked there, weird stuff would occasionally happen. Faucets in the bathroom starting on their own. Customers would say we knocked on their door or shouted their names while they tanned. Some customers were longtime clients and had all sorts of stories about it being haunted. Like most salons, we had cameras that monitored the hallways, front, and the computer system told me which beds were in use/clean/dirty. So I'm alone one day, and I walk to clean a bed in the back hallway. It's a long hallway with rooms on each side that ended with a door to the laundry room. As I walked into room 6, right next to the laundry room, I took note that the laundry was done. The laundry room door was open with the light on, and I could see/hear the dryer stopped. Now I'm in the room cleaning the bed when suddenly I hear a door slam so loudly. I jump, thinking it's a tanner or something, even though the door definitely didn't buzz. No, it's the laundry room door. It's closed and the light is off. But here's the thing. You cannot, in absolutely no way, slam that door. The floor in the laundry room is all warped by the door and it drags and sticks to the ground. You have to pull it really hard to get it to close. I stood there for about 5 minutes trying with all my might to slam that door and recreate what just happened. Not happening. That's when I totally freaked out and ran to the front and refused to go back there again all night. Story 8. Had some experiences when I was a kid living at my parents' house. Was using the computer late at night in the office room, which had portraits of each family member on the wall behind me. I heard a crash, turn around to see my portrait had fallen. It was the type that had a string on the back, so the frame was hanging on a nail stuck to the wall. The nail was still intact, so I didn't know how the portrait would have suddenly fallen. And of course, of all portraits to fall in that way, it had to be mine. Laying in bed, I would sometimes hear breathing near me. I thought I was hearing my own breathing, so would stop momentarily and still hear the same breathing. This led to a habit of sleeping with a radio/TV on to drown out the sound. When my family moved out of that house, I never experienced anything similar. So whatever it was, I guess it decided to stay. Winky face. Story 9. I have been waiting to tell this somewhere. Last fall I was in Toronto and walking on College Street to get to this video arcade place. Turns out they were not open yet. So we kept walking to go to another arcade I found on Google Maps that was open but stayed on this particular street. On the way we passed by this older woman, must have been in her 80s. She stood out because she looked borderline homeless, was a smaller woman and had one pant leg slightly up on her leg and these little light red sandal shoes and a scarf loosely draped around her head/neck. No bag, no belongings with her. We continued walking down the street about 10 minutes, and the same-looking woman walked past us in the same direction as the first one, wearing the exact same thing. The shoes and the pant leg stood out immediately. At first I thought it was the same woman, but then realized that would be impossible because 1, her age, and 2, she would have had to run across the street and down, and then cross it again to come back towards us. Then I thought maybe it's a twin, but her pant leg and shoes and scarf that all stood out to me was the exact same. The pant leg was the main stick out for me. So I still have no idea what that was. A glitch in the Matrix, an angel. I try not to think about it because I can't logically wrap my head around what that was, but I will always remember it. So, that's the end of the video. Hit the like button and subscribe. Have a good day and see you in the next video.